every week, someone comes to me for a consultation and they show me a quote from another dentist. And they ask me, why is this number different from that number that I found online? I get this all the time. And honestly, that question makes sense completely to me because, you've been searching and you probably have seen everything from $15,000 to $80,000. Nobody is actually explaining that's inside these numbers. So that's why I want to talk to you about and explain to you why this is not an easy question and what drives the cost. And you can look in those quotes from any dentist and actually know what they're looking at and why this cost makes sense. With full mouth rehabilitations, things are not the same. The first thing I want to clear up is that full mouth rehabilitation in actuality means, because I think it's a lot of people come with a picture in their heads, does not quite match the reality. Full mouth rehabilitation is not one procedure. It's more like a category of treatment. It can mean restoring a teeth, or it could mean rebuilding every tooth in your mouth. And it can involve crowns, veneers, implants, bone grafts, gum treatment, bite correction, or just some of those things, depending on what your situation actually requires. So, when you see two completely different quotes, it's often because two dentists are not quoting the same treatment. They looked at the case differently, or one is addressing one thing and the other one isn't. There is also something I want to discuss because patients mix this up a lot. Full mouth rehabilitation from the cosmetic smile makeover. And yes, they can be related, but they start from different places. The smile makeover starts from what you want to change in your smile, and it's more of an aesthetic change. And that's a very valid point. Full mouth rehabilitation starts with how your teeth function, how your bite works, and how your jaw moves. That's actually happening structurally. And the beautiful result comes from solving the functional problem first. And that distinction matters for the cost because functional rehabilitation is a lot more complex and it takes more and more time, more planning, more coordination, sometimes between multiple specialists. That's not the reason to be scared. It's just useful information to understand. That's why the price could be different, and that's why things are priced this way. So when I look at any retreatment plan, mine or someone else's, the cost comes down to a few specific things. First thing is the scope. How many teeth are working? No missing teeth and a moderate number of teeth that need to be restored. Their case looks very, very different from someone who's been living with the significant damage for years. The quote reflects that. The second thing is materials. And this is where you see the most confusion. There's genuine difference between high quality laboratory fabricated porcelain restoration and lower grade alternative. Premium materials, the ones that look like natural, feel natural, and they also hold over time. They cost more upfront, but they typically last anywhere from 10, 15 to 20 years with proper care. Lower cost materials often need to be replaced in 5 to 8 years. And then you've been replacing restoration across your whole mouth, and that adds up very, very quickly. So a lower quote isn't always less expensive option over a full course of your life. And the third thing we need to understand is the dental team itself. Dentists who specializes in this level of work, who's done hundreds of these cases, who works with skilled dental laboratory, who has the training specifically to handle these complex rehabilitation cases, they're not going to be priced the same as general dentists who basically takes on complex cases like this occasionally. And we all understand that specialty and specialized training is going to be expected. So when you're evaluating the quote, the question worth asking would be, what's the scope of the treatment? What materials being used? And what is the experience level of the team that, you're working with. Okay, let me give you some real ranges, because you know that you actually want to know what the cost is. That's what this video is about. On the lower end, the treatment can be somewhere around $15,000 to $25,000. You're generally looking at more moderate case, healthy bone, no missing teeth, straightforward number of restoration. This is legitimate, well-executed full mouth rehabilitation on the right patient. The lower number is not automatically a warning sign, for sure. The middle range, roughly 30 to 50,000, is where most comprehensive cases will land. That typically means multiple crowns or veneers, possibly 1 or 2 implants, premium materials, and a treatment plan that addresses both your bite, the function, and also how your smile looks. And the range is basically coordinated well and needed to be done like this. Above 60,000 is where the complexity increases. This is when patient's going to require multiple implants, bone grafting, full arch reconstruction. This is the cases where rehabilitation may take months. As if a quote seems dramatically lower than the others that quoted you before, it's worth understanding why. Either the scope has been reduced or materials and the lab work are different. Good dentists will walk you through every line on your item without any hesitation. I want to mention a few things. First thing is the treatment plan that doesn't include comprehensive bite analysis. Full mouth rehabilitations requires understanding how your upper and the lower teeth work together, your occlusion, and if no one talking to you about that, about your bite early in the process, that's a question worth asking. The second thing is receiving quote with no breakdown. You should get an itemized treatment plan that explains what each part of the treatment involved. A single number with no explanation doesn't give you enough information to make a good decision. And the third one is the pressure to commit quickly. Any specialist doing this level of work will support, and will explain to you, will talk to you. Second opinion is a good idea. It's a significant decision and you should not feel rushed into it. The one thing I definitely want to mention is that I've seen many times where patients come to me and I have to correct somebody else's work. And unfortunately, that's where things are going to get even more expensive. I have a patient who went to a different country and she had some extensive dental work done, full mouth dental implants. And unfortunately, now I had to send her to one of my really good specialists to correct the problem that was created. So it's very, very sad. And now patient is unhappy. She's going to have to go through significant pain and discomfort. I want to offer you a different way to think about cost because I find it actually helps people get some perspective. A well-done full mouth rehabilitation with the quality materials, proper maintenance can last 15, 20, 25 years. You're looking at a significant investment and I want you to feel comfortable with it, feeling good about that. Then, of course, there's a functional side of that. Sometimes that doesn't show up on the treatment plan on the paper, but it will come up in daily life. Patient comes in, compromised bites, often dealing with chronic headache, jaw pain, difficulty eating, sometimes disturbed sleep. They are not small inconveniences. They're often been living with them for years and have gotten used to being this way. When that changes, I watch the change. The difference is how they feel and how they move through the world. And it's significant. So the question isn't really whether you can afford it. The question is what your current situation is costing you and whether it's worth continuing to pay that. So now you have a real picture. What drives the cost, what ranges actually look like, and what to pay attention to when you're sitting across from a dentist, just like me, and when you're reviewing the treatment plan. That's genuinely useful information that you need to know before a consultation. Most people walk in without it. We just walk through the full cost. Now you know what they mean inside of them. The next thing most patients miss is knowing what questions to ask before they say yes to any of this. Watch this next, and I'll see you there.